We're sorry, I didn't.
That's not bad. So tonight is really about kicking off this conversation. It is not making decisions. It isn't really about talking about numbers. It usually takes our team until mid-July, sometimes late July, to get in estimated revenues from, it's now NUMO, kind of how they expect sales tax to fall for 2026. I have included in your packet, and we'll go through this a little bit at a time. Mickey has kind of taken the lead on this, and so we've got some questions here and some next steps here. But tonight is really a high-level conversation, as I mentioned in our one-on-one meetings, about priorities for council, right? So we only this year had 2 departments that asked for things, police and fire. I had included this in your packet. I think it's the very first sheet right off the bat. And they have prioritized from their operations what is most important to them as a department, all the way down to what is least important. They were the only 2 departments to ask for things. Today, I don't want to come to you and say I have $100,000 because I don't know what I have because we haven't done the revenues and all of that. So you can see here, fire is at the top. You see their priority. You see the thing they want. You see if it's a one-time cost, if it has ongoing costs. Fire and police chiefs are both here if you have specific questions, but again, they've kind of prioritized those. And as your city manager and treasurer create the budget, their proposed budget that's presented to you on August 1st, they take into consideration those priorities from an operational standpoint. So you'll see at the top is fire. The next one down is police. Both have asked for some pretty significant remodels. And so what I had them do this year is not break out. It's going to cost $2,900 to fleck paint the jail cells and $2,900 to fleck paint Sallyport. But what is the total of the remodel you want to do? And then look at how much can we contribute to that on an ongoing basis, or this year, because we're probably not going to be able to contribute $150,000 to Colby's requested remodel on the inside, right? But maybe you do $20,000, and then Colby has a full list of things he wants to do, and he gets to decide where that $20,000 goes within those priorities of remodeling the station from what was a volunteer station to now where people live every single day, 365 days a year. So they are here. You see the ladder truck is there. The ladder truck and Colby went with probably one of the least expensive, was $1.95 million. That's the going rate. We had a completely stripped out model with nothing he needed for 1.7, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Up to about 2.4. This is no bells and whistles. This is the truck that Gun Barrel needs. And it will be selling, trading in, doing something with replacing a 1997 ladder truck. You can finance 10 to 12 years. We have debt falling off, so we have $39,640 worth of debt falling off from the one we just finished financing. But it's going to be about $245,000 a year, potentially starting next year. So it wouldn't be right now, but it could potentially be next September, October. We'll know once we do that. And that truck would have to be financed through government capital. I visited with the gentleman on Saturday from government capital. They were at the TCMA conference, and they were aware of the purchase. And once we know exactly what, as we go through this process, they will send us a finance schedule. You can finance it for 7 years, 10 years, 12 years. Does that sound right, Mickey?
It says on your finance book.
I think it was either 7, 10, or 12. Colby and I looked at it again today. I think I did this one in the middle, whatever I think 10 was. But we'll firm those numbers up as we get a little closer. But you see there, they have some remodels they want to do. And from an operational standpoint, your chief should be picking what is priority in the station because they're there every single day, right? So that's some of it. You'll get down to ticket writers. You'll see potential court technology. That's something that the chief is working on. The court technology fund can pay that upfront cost, but today that court technology isn't funded in a manner it could continue to pay $8,000 a year. This year court technology will bring in about $4,500. Grace has other things that she also pays for out of there, but court technology can pay for ticket writers. So chief is now having some conversations with his team about, how do you do that ongoing. So there are some mandates. Obviously, that's number one. CGIS, those go back to 2024, and some multi-factor authentication that needs to be placed on all the computers. There are some additional mandates coming in 2027, which I have asked Chris Goldsmith to look at. So I have a cost for that as well, so we're not 3 years behind the mandates. So that's kind of a start of that. The second page of that is really the special fund request. So you'll remember last year was the first time you really saw a budget for this. That will even get beefed up a little more this year. Court security is a special fund. There's only certain things it can pay for. You can see here, Grace also has some requests out of this specific to the court. Fire department special account, asset forfeiture account, the Leo's special training fund, and then the police special fund. That's the donation. If you see special fund, those are donation accounts where donations come out, and those departments are able to, as long as council has kind of seen the budget for that, spend those on special, you can see there, fire department breast cancer shirts, fire department shirts and hats, tools and equipment, chairs for the station, police special fund. They're doing some of their community engagement, National Night Out, Coffee with a Cop, some decorations for the building. And so those are donations that come in that then get spent back out. So that's kind of where we are. They have all submitted their requests. That is the only two departments that had major requests. There were some line item increases. Those aren't in here, like the building department, for example. I've had those conversations with Shannon about funding some additional teardowns. But we need to talk about how many are we going to do and how many can we do, and where are we when we get done October 1st, right? And so that's something we're kind of working through. But for the most part, those are your major requests. Then most of you saw this in your one-on-one meetings. We had some beginning conversations. We've had some beginning conversations with department heads as well. This is that draft pay scale. I thought there was an actual pay scale. Did you take the other one out when you put this one in?
This is all I took out and replaced.
Oh, it was different. The other one was different. The other one was the actual pay scale.
I have the pay scale right here. But
The other one was the comparison of where we sit today versus there was another sheet of paper exactly like this.
I didn't remove anything other than
Okay.
this.
No, that's what I'm saying. This wasn't in there. Did you take a sheet that looked like this out of the packet?
Yeah, it looked just like this.
It didn't. Will you go grab it for me? Do you have it? It should be the gun barrel, unless I misprinted, it should be gun barrel versus what I am projecting with those steps, which I gave most of you. Started having those conversations about, we did a study, some of you have seen all of that data in our one-on-one meetings leading up to this, and really looking at where do we fall a little behind, and we fall a little behind in a lot of places, but if we put that priority first on public safety, and then look at what do we look at year 2, what do we look at year 3, and going forward. I had another sheet in there. This is if we did what I proposed, and again, we don't know today how much money we have, so there's a lot of things up in the air. It would move most of your employees to an open range pay scale, starting as one fee, starting as one rate, ending as another rate, and then you give raises as you want every single year. But for police, patrol, dispatch, fire, and fire captains, yeah, that's the actual pay scale. Fire and fire captains, they would be on a 5-step plan and then roll to open range. So your first 5 years are the hardest 5 years to keep your staff. everybody, doesn't matter, but it's the hardest for patrol and dispatch because it's the easiest for them to be taken, if you will. They get a little experience under their belt. Now Athens is offering them twice as much as we pay, right? So if you have some kind of step in there that says you're not just going to get 1% if everybody, we're going to attempt to get you this step. And sometimes public safety will get a step and everybody else don't. They get 1% instead of 3% because that's kind of how the steps are built in. What Mickey just handed you is the actual proposed pay scale. What that other sheet that was in your packet is the math behind it. Basically, it would take most folks to an open range, with the exception of a police officer, a dispatcher, fire captain, and fireman. And then there's some, hey, we need to retitle this. We shouldn't have a lead man as a job title. It should be something like streets crew leader or street supervisor or street something. Same with laborer. You don't see laborer as job titles anymore. They're called maintenance techs. So there are some other things in here that we need to adjust. At the bottom of that sheet Mickey just handed you, you see the cost of living increase for Social Security for the last 6 years. In 2026, it was 2.8%. So, one of the things we heard last year is, well, I didn't get a raise. Why should these guys get a raise? Well, I wanted to go out and look at what is Social Security giving, right? We have a lot of retired folks. Just as a conversation starter, once you know how much money you have, then you know better how much of a raise you did. But what Mickey built that next sheet over, that draft salary schedule over, was the 2.8%. If we gave everybody the steps, gave the people the 2.8, you're looking at about $143,000. It's on the back side of that, highlighted in yellow. Just wages, it would be about $143,000. Again,
Did we add any positions to this?
There were no new positions added to this at all. So that did not take into consideration a potential deputy chief or anything else. It's just if today we did that with every employee we had today, it would be $143,753.31 just in wages.
Rough estimate.
Rough estimate, because sometimes they move or change. We've got some on probation that'll come off of probation. Things that change. And so just what this team is working on as we work through this budget process. It's a process. You definitely know more once you know revenues, once you know better about expenses, once you see contract increases, once we make sure what's electricity going to be and water going to be. All those things come into play because we still have to make some adjustments there. Insurance. We believe insurance will not have a rate increase this year. Some TML cities are seeing as much as 11%. We got our letter that there would be no increase. So I think some of you, when I talked to you recently, I said 11%. We have our letter in hand, and there will be zero increase for our employees, which is amazing. Right? We couldn't have asked for anything better. Mickey and I are still having side conversations with an agent to see if we could. He works with TML and helps negotiate, so our rate's already too high, and that's why we're not seeing anything, and can we negotiate those down? Dean has worked with TML most of his career and sometimes can help us even lower our rate with TML. So those conversations are still ongoing too. But this is just a draft. Again, it takes most of your employees. One of the challenges, and you all know this, one of the challenges is we have two major challenges with our current payroll, with our current pay scale. One, it's a 10-year plan that has become a 20-year plan, right? Because the philosophy has been 1 year you get a step, 1 year you get a COLA, and the pay scale gets adjusted. 1 year you get a step. Well, nobody really wants to sign up for a 20-year pay scale, right? I mean, you can see down there at the bottom what $35,000 would buy in 2020. It takes $67,000 today. That came right off of that inflation calculator website. And so it gets complicated to how do we keep employees, how do we keep our payroll load down, but how do we keep employees? And how do we compete with cities around us that start higher than us? I will tell you that culture eats pay every single day for lunch. It just does. A great culture, people will not leave for 50 cents more to go next door. They won't do it. Colby has experience after experience with that. His guys get offered jobs all the time in other cities making more, but they love working in Gun Barrel and they love their chief and they're willing to stay here to do that.
Good.
But you still have to be competitive, right? Not everybody's gonna do that, always. They have such a family environment, and Chief McBride has continued that. So we do need to be competitive, and we need to figure out how to do that. So number one is, 1 year we've given a raise, 1 year we've given a COLA. That's put us way behind in some cases. Number two is, and this is a challenge, if I start today, I start at an A. Let's say I'm a permit tech, and it's November 1st. I start at an A. At my 6-month anniversary, I moved to a B. I am now stuck at a B for 1 full year plus another year because of how our pay scale has been implemented. I don't care how council decides to do it, but council should be making that decision. What Mickey did for me is build that on, you get what you're gonna get on day one. So if you're gonna be a B, then that's step one. You start there, and then at the end of the year, whether you've been here 5 months or 12 months, council decides what that raise is gonna look like in that upcoming budget, right? So I have never worked in an agency that you might have an employee that didn't get a raise for 18 months. So that's just not my experience. It has worked for Gun Barrel, but if we do that again, I need council to understand that is what we're doing, so that employees understand that we didn't try to sell you guys a boat that wouldn't float, right? And that hasn't been an issue. It wasn't an issue in last year's budget, but it was an issue in the year before. And so I want us to tell that story from day one of, you're going to start at step one. If you're brand new out of Fire Academy, you're going to start at step one. And then next October, you're going to have the opportunity to move to step two if the city gives raises. I can never guarantee to an employee on November 1st that in October the next year, they're getting a raise.
Yeah.
I worked for the city of Rockwall. We didn't get raises 5 years. No one got a raise for 5
Well,
years.
like any job, it should be
So,
based off performance a
so
little
that's,
bit.
it's not based off performance so much in municipal government. It's based more off of tenure, and then the expectation is you were not here if you're not doing your job. Because you have a performance point, you have performance evaluations, and people should be doing all those. So you're not sticking around if you're not doing a job.
Right.
But that it is based on market and what the market will pay, if that makes sense, or will afford. It's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
So in other words, instead of starting with A and getting a raise in 6 months, they're gonna start at the 6 months if they were salary, whatever
100%,
that is,
yeah.
and B. And then they're on the scale with everybody else to get raises
Yep.
at the renewal. Now,
Yep.
when the next budget comes around though, how does she keep up with who's been here less than a year? You know what I'm trying to say? Because you're saying at that point, it's council's decision to give that person a raise since they've been here less than a year or not.
I don't think you do it person by person. I think
Well, I know,
that
that's
is-
what I'm trying to say. So
No,
when
no,
you're
no.
saying it's gonna be a council decision, well,
No, no,
how are
no.
we even gonna know?
No, I think council makes the decision, we're not gonna do the,
Exactly.
or we are gonna do the, and I don't care which, you guys have to, Mickey has to manage that, she's used to managing it that way. I struggle with that because I have employees, I have police officers today that started in, let me find one, that started in May of 25 that make the same as an employee that started in December of 25, and the one in December has a year more experience. Right? And the one in May has now a year more experience than the one in December, but they wouldn't get a raise till October. And it's hard to do raise dates, like the day you're hired is the day you get a raise. Most cities budget that in October. Everybody gets a raise in October. I've just never seen that system play out. And our employees don't love it, right? Because they've been here, they could start October 15th. They're not getting a raise for 24 months in that case.
Well, that depends on if you can raise the year that they're eligible for a raise.
Yeah,
And I know
yeah,
that
yeah,
this came up a few years ago, or
Yeah.
a year ago, we talked about this
Yeah.
before, yeah. But my only thing I have is what if somebody is hired in August?
We could.
They try and get a raise in September?
Yeah, you could potentially October 1st get a raise, or council could say, we want to do a 1% rate to keep on track too, right? That's the other problem. At that point, council could say anybody hired between May and October doesn't get a raise till mid-year. You can do that, and you can budget raises mid-year. I mean, that's, my history was, you got, if council made the decision to get a raise, you got a raise October 1st, and then COLAs didn't come until April. And they would budget in a 2% COLA in April, and that's when that money started getting funded, right? And so then that adjusted your pay scale, and there's so many options. But I would argue that I've never seen the year thing get tangled up the way it does here, and it does open the door to a lot of questions. So we need to have that conversation with council for very clear direction on how do you want to handle that going forward. What has happened is, no matter when you started, you had to be here one full year on October 1st in order to get a raise. That's how that's been handled. So you were hired in at an A, at 6 months you were moved to a B, and then you must be here a full year before you saw moving to a C. If the argument is we're having a hard time hiring, let's hire people at a B, which I'm all for because they're going to get there anyway, right? If they can do their thing, then let's just start them at a B. We'll start them. Step one should be a B in our old pay scale terms, right? So you start on step one, and each year council makes the decision, and it's not uncommon for public safety to get a step, which is 3%, and open range employees to get 2.8. Or 3.2 or 4 or however that pans out. It's not, everything doesn't have to be equal, right? Because pay scales move at different speeds. So for a while, dispatchers, everybody was raising their dispatcher scale because no one could hire dispatchers in the Metroplex. And in the Metroplex, people will leave for a quarter. They don't care. They will go right here for a quarter, and then right there for a quarter, and then right there for a quarter. And before you know it, they're making an extra $1 an hour, but they've hot 4 jobs. And so that became a real issue in the Metroplex, and people were hopping, and kind of all the cities got together, like all the chiefs got together and said, wait a minute, time out, let's come up with a pay scale that works, and let's stop the hopping and get our positions filled. They were able to do that. So dispatchers 1 year in my past city got like 10% raise to get that leveled out, get everybody on the same, not exactly, it wasn't like some mastermind of every council, but we were able to navigate that to get everybody kind of even so people weren't jumping for a quarter, right? So that is kind of where it is. So the first one that Mickey brought you with just a few that says draft in the corner, that's the actual pay scale. Today's pay scale is the first set of columns. The second set of column recommendation is the recommendation with the 5 steps. They then go, after 5 steps, they then go to open range to top out. And then the second really big piece of paper you have is what that would look like in rough, because I made Mickey make changes at 4 o'clock today. So rough in what that would look like if we rolled out that pay plan this year. It would cost about $143,000 just in wages. So those are those 2 things. Just for grins and giggles, I also included for y'all April financials, so you could have a printout of the most recent. One thing that they will bring back to you at your next budget meeting is you'll have your May financials by then, so you'll be able to see where we really are as of May. Plus, one thing I think that we can do is give you a guesstimate of where we project that to be by the end of the year, right? That's something I think some of you guys asked last year, how do we know where we're going to really end up? And then the other thing in the packet is the investments with Techstar. This is not the gun barrel bank balance report. I thought I had changed it. I must have not changed it. That is the Techstar. As you all know, you build a budget based on the money that comes in every month, right? So the budget is built on what we expect to come in during October the 1st to September the 31st. And so these have served as kind of those accounts. We've closed most of our CDs. As you heard Techstar share with y'all in the meeting, these are very liquid accounts, right? So we don't make any account moves until the end of the year when we know what we need to move. It behooves the city to invest more until you have to move those funds around because you're drawing that interest on those funds.
Hey,
So.
Angie, you said that when we were on this paper, the budget request form, anything with special by it is basically a fundraiser that had gone on for that department, and that's,
Not necessarily, so there's a lot of kinds of unrestricted, there's a lot of different types of unrestricted funds. The special fund would be some kind of donation to that specific group. There's a fire special fund, there's a police special fund, and there's a park special fund.
okay,
Those are donation accounts.
Yeah,
The
they're
others
donation.
are actual.
okay. I was just making sure I was understanding,
Yeah.
based off the balance report and then the requests.
Yeah, there are a lot of special funds, a lot of restricted funds, and those budgets can be presented to council, and then the department head can spend out of those as well.
Yeah,
There's
great.
certain things Leos can be spent for, there's certain things court technology.
sure.
And the department heads are responsible for making sure those requests are within that window, so yeah.
That's awesome.
So that is kind of where we are. What I think my team needs from you is, are there other things that you have in your mind that you would like us to look at? One of the council members asked me about getting some bids on being able to scan in some of the documents, right? We know police got all their boxes out of the ceiling and they're stored currently in a jail cell. And that scares people, but I can tell you they scanned to date 70. Now we're at 90, so they are scanning those in. Lauren and Brittany are both scanning things in. I'm getting a price. Janet's working on getting you a price on what it would cost to scan that stuff in. My team is slowly but surely ticking away at it. They are meeting in the morning at the Connex boxes so that I can put my eyes on those condition of those records and decide what needs to be destroyed and what needs to be brought up here and scanned in a little bit at a time. Some of them are moldy. Like we can't scan moldy. If you touch it and the paper falls apart, then we have to make other decisions, right? And we have the Connex boxes coming, and we'll get shelving to put some additional there. They are sealed. Chief had doors installed on them that we can actually open and close that are manageable. And our fire chief is going to use our old Connex boxes as training tools. So we're finding a place in the park for those to be used so we can practice burns. So we're going to start with some burns. Don't tell the fire chief what we're going to burn, but we're going to start with some burns. I got some stuff on my list of stuff to burn. So, but those, you'll start seeing those record destructions coming to you. So are there other things? This is a lot of information, and I know that. But again, today isn't really about necessarily making decisions. More, what are your priorities? Would you like to see us work on the pay scale? I know that was a priority last year, and it took a long time for us to get through that, and I apologize. I'm telling you, I had to call some people and say, if you don't send me your pay scale today, I'm driving too. Because poor Mickey had emailed them and called them, and
There was several that didn't have a pay scale at all.
oh yeah, yeah.
I was like, well, you want me to send you ours?
There's cities around us that don't have a pay scale at all, and some aren't very giving. And anytime you do this process, we're already a year behind, right? Because they're all having the same conversation. Now we have good relationships with those folks, and I think they will keep us abreast. But we heard from you last year that one of the things that we wanted to try to do was realign those public safety positions into more competitive. And a lot of them are going that direction where there's not so much. Now, there is always going to be overlap between a sergeant and a lieutenant, and it's based on the number of hours they work. A sergeant works more hours than a lieutenant works, and a lieutenant is salaried. So I think Mickey had that on here.
It is.
A sergeant works 36 hours, and a lieutenant and a captain and the chief are all salaried, right? So they do the 4-day work weeks. A fireman works 25-44, and a fire captain works 25-44, where a fire chief is salaried. So it's the hardest decision, and it has been my entire career, for a officer or a sergeant to make, to jump to that lieutenant, because all their overtime goes out the window, right? So that's something that, it's just part of the decision you have to make when you make that decision to move up the chain. But comments, questions? That's really what this meeting is about, dumping. giving y'all something y'all know we're here. We're happy to answer questions. I think the most important part for those of you that are new to council is we like to get the council priorities. The budget that comes to you on August 1st from your treasurer and your city manager is the city manager's budget, right? And that takes into consideration all of the operations. Sometimes we have a little extra money on the table and then we have the ability to add this or that. I don't know if I've ever presented a budget where we really left a lot of money on the table, because I'm going to take these guys' priority lists and say, how much of it can we do? We probably aren't going to have $538,000, right? But if we do if we make some pay adjustments and we can do a little of this and do a little of that, you guys also have some of the money you didn't spend mid-year that you can pour into something like this, and Mickey will have that exact number. So that can be transferred from reserves over. It's not really needed for reserves. You know, we have some additional money in capital improvement and we have some additional money. So that's something that we're working on, is what is that? Because those are great. Those dollars are great one-time projects, right? So even within those remodel numbers you see, PD $54,000, fire $150,000, Colby has then, and Keith has then prioritized in their list, these are most important to me. So you guys shouldn't have to decide, do we paint the Sally Port or do we paint the jail cells? You should say, hey, I want to give them $30,000. Operationally, what supports their day-to-day operations best, and let them decide that. Because that really, at the end of the day, is where that priority lies.
So two questions. So that 538,000 on this page does not include the increase of salary?
It does not include
Correct.
salaries,
Okay.
no.
And then the second question I have is on the balanced bank report. Is this telling us that, I know this means that this is our balance as of April. Are you saying that this is your estimated move into Techstar? Have we already
Yes.
moved that to Techstar?
That has not been moved.
That has not been moved because
It-
y'all wanted to see what
Yeah.
we were talking about.
Well, I should not, yeah.
We have not pushed the button. Mickey just mapped it out. She and I went back and forth last week talking about it, but that is the intent. Obviously, the more we get, the more interest it draws. We do have that other CD closing in
not-
June.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be very aggressive with it yet
No,
because
I
it's
had
so
to make her
brand
be
new.
more aggressive than she was.
And I think once
I
I
think it looks
get,
pretty aggressive.
once I get to do, it's good. I'm comfortable with this. But once I get used to it and I know the ins and outs of it, I can be more aggressive, but
Yeah. The
You
great-
want to jump in head first?
I don't want to
The
jump in
really
head first.
good thing
No life
about
jacket. yet.
Techstar is it is liquid, right?
Right.
You can
awesome.
you can go in tomorrow and move money, and
can
because
shift it.
the hardest part to get folks to wrap their head around is, while these bank balance reports at the front are great, they aren't our budget, right? We build the budget on, this is how much we're going to bring in this year, and this is how much we're going to spend. And so this is all great information, but some of this is excess reserves, and some of it is stuff like we did budget. We did budget some things out of the seizure and forfeiture. We did budget some things out of the law enforcement education fund, but we don't move that until the end of the year, and then only if we need to move it, right? So if general fund, if sales tax and our fees and fines can all cover that, then we don't need to move that money out of those accounts where they are. So that's all done at the end of the year based on need to make sure that we have a balanced budget on September 31st. And it takes us 45 days, 60 days to do that, so.
What's this one at the bottom for 133?
That is our sinking fund. Do you want to explain that, Mick?
Our sinking fund is our debt fund.
Don't want to explain it anymore.
And we have to keep 2 years' worth of payments in it.
Oh, good.
So it's our sinking fund.
Got it.
So we have,
For
right
City
now,
Hall, right.
right now, it was City Hall and the fire truck, it's the City Hall payment. We have 2 years' worth of City Hall payments sitting in that fund. We replenish it and keep 2 years' worth of payments in that fund. If something were to happen, if we were to lose a sales tax payer or something, we would have 2 years of payments that we could could go back on.
For
So,
this building
yes.
employees.
So God forbid, something
Yeah.
like Walmart closes
Yeah.
or something.
Can start. I mean, anything, right? So
And another thing, there's a lot out there about these are restricted funds. Well, they are restricted funds in the terms of they can only be spent on certain things.
Yeah.
And they can't be used as part of your rainy day fund, meaning if something were to happen, these funds could not be used as backup to get us through whatever that catastrophe was.
And so the sinking fund, you're saying City Hall, explain, are you just saying a building payment? What is that, what is?
To City Hall, so we still make payments on City Hall. It's like $70,000 a year. A sinking fund is, you're required to have 2 years' worth of payments sitting in that fund at all times.
Right, I don't know, but 2 years would be 140, right? Is that what you're saying? So that's. for the-
It's right at
But it's
133.
just for the payment of the building only, no other,
Correct.
you're not trying to say any
It's
other
almost
debt
like-
is in there. It's just
Yes.
that one, the payments for the building only.
So I make payments, we make payments out of general fund. We budget for those payments to come out of general fund, but we have to keep this amount in there. So we still budget for those payments, but this is our backup.
I was just making sure I understand it was just the building payment, nothing more.
Yeah.
Now, if a fire truck, when we do get a fire truck, that would be considered in there as well. It's our sinking fund.
Potentially,
It's
yeah.
what our debt is paid out. If it's a 10-year payment, we would just have to hold 2 years in there and then make the payments out of it.
Does
Make
government
the
capital
payments out of
require?
it, you said, out of sinking
None
fund?
of this.
Yeah, our payments come out of our sinking fund and I replenish those
Okay.
to keep 2 years worth in there.
So that fire truck's like, I don't even remember what the 6, 20, 30, I don't even remember what that number was.
It's like two something.
So we'd have, so we'd have to add another $500,000 to that sinking fund.
We would have to, at some point, yes, have enough funds in there to make 2 years worth of payments.
And it gets replenished from general fund?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you're budgeting this year for general fund, it's for a 3rd-year payment basically because we're keeping the 2 years in there. Does that make sense?
Well, the 2 years always stays there.
It's really
It
just
It
securing
just
the
stays
loan.
there.
It's-
So there's
it's a
accounting that
security.
stays
That's what,
there.
all it's doing is securing the loan. How Mickey manages making payments is complicating it. It really
Yeah.
is just securing the
Yeah,
loan.
yeah, you're just having a savings that has 2
Yeah.
years worth of payments.
Yeah,
I'm trying
that's
to
it.
figure out if I have to do that with the truck
And
you're
I-
saying. That means another $500,000
We
that I
need
have
to
to.
check on that. I'm not sure, does government capital require that? I've never seen government capital require that.
Yes, it's in their contract.
Okay.
You
So
see
we
what I'm
need to
saying?
look
So
at
that's another
that.
$500,000 I gotta come up with somewhere.
Yeah,
Move that
yeah,
money from somewhere. I
Yeah.
mean, that's gotta be something.
yeah. So we'll need to look at that.
Okay.
Could you? Well, never mind.
No, go ahead.
Could you point to me which page the public enhancement fund is on the budget report?
It's not gonna be,
It's gonna be way back.
it's gonna be in the back because it's special funds.
Got it.
So the general fund will be all of the front and then back at the back, it'll say court time payment fee, park special.
Street, fleet, public enhancement.
Council has 20 pages.
Huh?
So why's council? Is this council? Council. So why's council got 20 pages in here?
Which page is it on? The reconciliations, okay.
Tourism.
And public enhancement is restricted. It can be, we can do streetlights, we can do,
There it is.
The majority of
Just page
it,
one.
so the public enhancement fund, those funds come from the water department, it's the
Fine.
water franchise fees.
It's fifth from the back.
So we can use it on fire hydrants,
I just-
updates in the park.
I noticed most of it was going into Techstar, and I know that's a bit of a hot button while we're working on, rebuilding a very positive culture, and I think we have one in a lot of our departments, but as far as community-based, and a lot of those people in the community have to see these things, right? And so to put something out in front of their face that is inherently positive. So anyway, that's why I was just wondering what we had done versus what was on the balance report and what's
yeah.
going into
In this
Techstar.
year's budget, we have some things that Mike is exploring, some streetlights, looking at what options those are. He was also doing a little research with East Cedar Creek about adding some potential fire hydrants. Those kind of roll over, those projects and plans.
Yeah, it's not
So,
clear.
but the benefit to investing it is it doesn't make sense to leave it sitting in an
Oh,
account
yeah.
that draws zero interest
No,
when
no.
we can
If it
invest
can
it.
be
And if
grown.
we have a special project come up,
Bring it
we
back
can
in.
always come to council and say, hey, we have the perfect project for some street lights, right? We can put 5 lights on Welch, 5 on Harbor Point, 5, it's not much, but it's a start. Or Colby says, hey, Andrew, we really need a fire truck, we can do some park improvements. That goes back into like the water and sewer potentially for a food truck park, that kind of stuff. So that's something that can always come back to council, but in the interim, it can be drawing interest,
Right.
Yeah,
which makes a
absolutely.
huge dent. So that's gonna be a significant amount of money going forward for the city, just in interest income.
Right.
The EDC alone, it pays Stephen's salary. It offsets Stephen's salary over there. And that's pretty significant when you think about it's only, $500,000 or $600,000, and for it to bring in $35,000 a year, it's pretty significant. So, y'all being able to really take advantage, or us being able to take advantage of that going forward is gonna be huge, because that is another avenue of income. So, that is less dependent, it's just dependent on the interest rate, so. Other things y'all want us to consider? Things that are in your head? I really want a fire hydrant here, I really want street lights up and down. We have a lot of long linear streets with a lot of trees. That's been our challenge with street lights. Mike is doing some research on the ability to potentially put in some solar lights. As a matter of fact, he may call you because he was gonna call and maybe talk to Keith about some options, how you guys were planning on doing it, but it's an option. But are there other things that are in your brain from a operational standpoint you would like us to explore? I'll challenge my team to do that and look at that.
I'm really excited about the grant for the park.
We did get a grant for the park. Yeah.
Other than that, I think we
Parks
just.
Board is, I'm telling you, I don't know if y'all saw Frank when you came in, they were wrapping up their meeting, Frank and his cohort were meeting in the lobby, and Frank is applying for more. He's looking for 100% grants that he can do. My team is constantly looking. The parks are great because we have somebody that has some experience doing that, but then they punt to our street department, to Mike Howell, who has a lot of experience managing grants, and so he'll be able to help us see that to fruition. But they have 2 or 3 other ones out. They have a Lowe's bucket list grant out. They're currently working on an Encore grant to potentially do new ball field lighting or tennis court lighting, depending on how much money we got through that. So we just have to keep at it. It's something that we have a great relationship with a couple of different grant companies. GrantWorks is constantly looking. We should be able to, in the next year, apply for some more CDBG dollars. You can only do those ever so often, every 3rd year maybe, so that'll be coming up. To maybe do some drainage improvements. Glow is still out there. That's the slowest process ever. I've never been more frustrated with something in my life, but they gave a whole lot of money all at one time, and you can only do the companies that are managing them can only do so much with them because of how, and some of it is we have to get with East Cedar Creek, and we really need a layout of all their water lines. Well, they don't really have that, so it has to go back and forth.
Is that the grant you're discussing that was for our flood maps and stuff
It
like
is,
that?
it is.
Because that was one of the big topics Saturday, was of course flood,
Absolutely.
and stuff around here, and drainage issues.
It is drainage and zoning, and I had them start with drainage, and I did that on purpose because that is our number one problem, is getting these topography maps and mapping out so that when we have a massive rain, a lot of times FEMA and TDM, which is the Texas Department of Emergency Management, have funding ready, but we have to have projects ready. And right now we don't, because we just know it's a mess, right? We don't know how to help. We don't know how do we partner them, but they're having to work with East Cedar Creek Freshwater District. They're having to work with TRWD. They're having to, because we have so many tributaries, right? Who owns those tributaries? Where do they stop being the property owners and start being TRWDs? And what do we own, and what should we be working on in those areas? So there's a lot that comes up to it. So we started with drainage. It's just a slow process. Everybody got money to work on that, and then zoning is their next thing that they'll work on. That's two different groups in-house. But we also have some new grant folks from Trailer who have been awesome. Is that who? CDBG, our new folks. They've been great. We had one and she retired, and there were some speed bumps with our last grant, but we're back on track. And so those folks are constantly out looking for those 100,000 and up infrastructure type grants for us too. So that's really, tonight was more about giving you information Trying to know that we're working on this and that it is ticking away, and see if there was something specific to council that you wanted us to pursue outside of those things that you see that came specifically from departments.
Yeah, I think just salaries. Salaries is a good start.
That
We
was,
gotta
salaries
retain good
and
people. If we
continuing
can't have
to-
a revolving door.
Yeah, and continuing to improve our facilities. I mean,
salaries are tough because they're never perfect. But all you can do is do the best you can, right? There are some other things that are on this list that I just cropped off about, shift differential is another option. So, but again, what does that cost and how much money do we have? And I just kind of stopped with this first, like, let's start here and see where we get if we do this. Mickey and I still need to tinker with it because I need to make sure a fireman doesn't outpace a fire captain by the end, right? There's some balancing we need to make sure is in there by these numbers I just dreamed up out of my head from all the numbers we have. It's like, yes, we gotta make sure there's some evenness there so that one doesn't outshift the other. But I wanted to get it in front of you because I wanted you to see it. I've also shared it with my team and talked to them a little bit about what I was proposing. But there was also a shift differential. There's the potential maybe to do education again, right? We've got some things out there that you're gonna start seeing some additional revenue from some of these interest earnings. The potential to maybe do some education fund, maybe do bilingual certification, so if you have someone that speaks Spanish, then you pay them a little bit to speak Spanish and they take the it's not just you can speak it, you have to go take a test. There's a test.
Right.
You go take it and then you're available. It's hard to do it with officers because they serve a specific shift, but you could do it with officers as well, right? If they're bilingual, then they get a little bit of pay for that. Our certification pay, we need to make sure that's in line as well. But all of that kind of comes into play as options once we know better how much money we have and what will it take to get us punted above having officers start at 52 instead of 55. So that's where we're at.
That Techstar number, was it 3.75 or 3.8?
For what, the interest rate?
It changes every day. I would have to see what today is, but it was about 3.75.
High threes.
Yeah. That varies. I've seen that as high as almost 5, but for the last little bit, it's jumped back and forth between 3.67, 3.73, 3.75, 3.76.
Once I get it all moved, this bank balance report, not this one, the one that you get in your financials every month that shows prior month and this month and the changes, you'll see the bank balance report, and then right behind it, I'm gonna do one that says Techstar report. It's gonna look exactly the same. One's through the banks and one's through Techstar, so you'll know exactly what those accounts are doing.
awesome.
Perfect. Anything further? Anyone?
I'm good.
Nope. All right.
Do you want to go back to the dais, or do you want to stay?
We'll stay right here. Item 4B, discussion and/or action regarding the city manager position. If council desires to go back to executive session, we'll need a motion. And obviously that motion will have to pass 3 votes. So if there is desire, do I have a motion to convene into executive session?
I make a motion that we go into executive session regarding the city manager position.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Edward second.
I have a motion and a second. Vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Lander, yes. Cropper, yes.
Edward, yes.
So pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Section 551.074, dealing with personnel, the city council will convene into executive session at 5:51 to discuss the position of the city manager.
Do you leave this on? Or just?
Yes, but I don't need it. Thank you.
city council will reconvene into open session at 6:21. Take any action necessary as a result of the executive session. Number one, I make a motion and ask for a motion to accept the resignation of the city manager effective July 1st, 2026. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the resignation of the city manager effective July 1st, 2026.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Edwards, second.
Before I ask for a vote, I would like Dr. Smith to please have the floor.
Council, it has been my honor to serve you and my team and the residents of this city for the past 2 years and 9 months. This has been an extremely difficult decision for me, but it is time to be closer to my family. I have a new grandbaby due next Tuesday. Under your guidance, Gun Barrel City has improved its management stability and fiscal stewardship and accomplished a great deal. Both the city and the EDC are in a much better position than they were in late summer of 2023. You have a strong council that believes in teamwork and in making the best decisions for Gun Barrel City as a whole. And I'm excited to watch the next steps from the sidelines. My time in Gun Barrel will always be special to me. Our results speak for themselves. Gun Barrel City is in a better financial position and has continued the unfounded audits for the last 2 years. The ordinances are being updated. We built a beautiful new community center that's hosting memberships and programs and rentals. And there's a strong team of leaders and employees dedicated to the vision of Gun Barrel being the regional center of the Lakeplex, combining a unique sense of place and hometown feel where residents live safe, healthy, and active lives. The EDC is also in better financial condition. Paperwork is straightened out, we have incentive policies that work, and our partnership with the retail coach is stronger than ever. We have good things happening in Gun Barrel City. I want to express my sincere appreciation for the dedicated city employees who work tirelessly on behalf of this community. I have never worked with a group of people more dedicated to their community and seeing it succeed. This isn't just a job for your employees, this is their home, and they are focused on doing what is best for the community. I strongly encourage the council to continue supporting and respecting their efforts. Without them, this city will not succeed. To each of you, some I have worked with my entire time in Gun Barrel, and some that have just been elected, keep your servant spirit. Serving on council is hard work, but I believe the current council will work together to help keep the city moving forward. I remain grateful for this opportunity to have served this city, and I leave knowing this community has great leadership at the helm.
Thank you,
I'm
Dr.
getting excited.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I will take a moment to say that your leadership has been absolutely amazing. Kind of consider myself an expert on that, just being around so many leaders and speaking on it and teaching that to so many young people, that your leadership and your guidance has been unprecedented. I've seen the staff grow, I've seen the city grow. You've been an incredible leader, a great mentor, and I personally tell you that you've been a better friend. And I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And I wish you nothing but great things and success. I now have a motion and a second. I'll take a vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Lander, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Edwards, yes.
Motion passes. Number two, I'll ask for a motion to allow the city manager to work with Strategic Government Resources to contract for an interim city manager until such time as city manager is hired. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to allow the city manager to work with Strategic Government Resources to contract for an interim city manager until such time city manager is hired.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Go for second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Lander, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Edwards, yes.
Motion passes. Number three, I need a motion to allow the city treasurer to post a city manager job on all relevant sites. Do I have a motion?
I move that we allow the city treasurer to post the city manager job on all relevant sites.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Edwards, second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion, vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Leonard, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Edwards, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, this meeting is now adjourned.
Yeah.
No, I'm just gonna email about.
But it's,